otherwise I won't be able to do it. Right, okay. Before we start properly, just so many thanks to, I think we've got 2 full starting Photoshop courses, which is brilliant. We really appreciate that. There are a couple of people, I've noticed 2 or 3 people saying they're still interested in doing it. Obviously, we'd love to be able to do another one. So if you are absolutely, if you're keen to do it, then please let us know. And then we can have a look at dates for another one kind of after that. But thank you very much, everyone who has signed on to that. We are, we know exactly what we're doing. We are working on a little bit more of it this afternoon, weren't we, John? Just sort of
Indeed.
filling in some of the details on it and what have you. So it's shaping up really, really nicely. So I don't forget later, we won't be doing a Zoom next week because we've got other things kind of getting in the way of that, but we'll try to do on the week after. So no Zoom next week. So you'll have a break. You can all go to the pub now instead. There you go. That's really where I'm going. No, I'm not really, but anyway. Right. So tonight we're doing insects, aren't we? We're doing insects, and as always, I put the call out for lots of insect shots and got a lot of stuff in, so that's great. So we're going to go through that. So I've just got to do a share screen. If you can hang on one moment while I do that. John, talk to them about anything while I just sort my share screen out, will you?
Anything at all. Well, while
anything
you're sharing
you like.
screen.
Yeah.
We'll have a little intro, but we wanted to make this way. When you've had a lot of yakking from us on composition and various other things, but we wanted to kind of make this about you. So those who have submitted their insect shots, we wanted to give you a chance to sort of say a few words about it. You don't have to if you don't want to, but if you feel sort of, confident enough to come forward and tell us a little bit about the shot and what you're trying to achieve and such like, then that would be fantastic. So that's what we'll be looking for. But before we get into that, we'll segue to Andrew, who's got a couple of words to say about our six-legged friends. Well, I hope you have. I hope you prepared something.
I did. I sort of vaguely made something up in my head, basically, if that's what you mean. The slick way that we love to do this.
That is preparation in our view.
Well, actually, no, it's not entirely true. I've actually got something written down as well, so that's good. Can everybody see the screen now? Nod, anybody, yes. So I can. Yeah. So we're all nodding.
Yeah.
Thank you for Naomi nodding away. So yes, so we're going to be looking at lots and lots of insect shots. So I just thought. Tonight it would be to start it off, just get us in the right mood. I think insects are, a lot of us are wildlife lovers, probably all of us are wildlife lovers, and some of us are kind of, do a lot of wildlife photography. And I always think that insects are the one thing that sort of, it's so accessible, isn't it? It's the most accessible of the wildlife, because you can literally, you get the insects in the house, or you walk out into the garden and you've got insects. So I think they're absolutely brilliant things to do, and I love doing them. But I just thought, to get us in the mood, I would get some insect facts for us from the internet, obviously. So I can't honestly say that all this is true. However, I thought, well, I'm talking to a bunch of photo buzzers. Where do I go to get the facts that's going to be perfect for them? So obviously I went to a website for children. I thought that was the best way of going for something like this. So just going to click through. By the way, this is this shot that I've just put up now is a friend of mine, Peter, who's another professional photographer. And this is my local river where I often go to photograph damselflies, banded damsels. And I think somebody else has, a couple of other pictures, possibly damsels, banded damsels.
Damosel.
Say that again?
Damosel.
Yes, okay. All right, Mr. Picky. Pipe down in Harrogate. Well, funny enough, I put an image on Instagram today, calling it a grasshopper, because I wanted to do the kung fu gag about it in grasshopper. And somebody's saying it's not a grasshopper, it's a cricket. I mean, really, come on, guys. Anyway, so it's a banded damoiselle. Thank you. But this is a river I go in and go down to, and I've been waiting. They're right at their peak right now down there, but I just haven't had the weather recently, because it's so dependent on weather, macro photography, isn't it? But I do, like we are here with Pete there in the water, I often get in with waders. I use chest waders a lot for a lot of that stuff, because it just makes everything so accessible. So I need to kneel down in shallow water, I can do that. So I'm not relegated to just wandering around the bank. Now, clearly you can't do that in really deep water, because that would be dangerous. But if you've got shallow streams and shallow rivers where you can get in safely, It's something that I would recommend that you do if you really want to take your macro photography onwards. But there you go. So sorry, right? This is just one of the shots that are taken down the river. Just of the, I love the fact that insects often, I think they have characters of their own. I don't mean individual insects, although actually they probably do, but species certainly do. And one of the things with damsels or damoiselles is that I love the way they ruffle their wings and do this little shake thing often before they take off, and that's what this guy's doing at this point. But anyway, the fact, so there are somewhere between 6 and 10 million insect species. That's unbelievable, isn't it? There's enough there to keep us going in photo missions for a long time, I think. So I think that's probably the future. We're just going to do a photo mission on a different insect species. We can do one a week at this rate. That would be brilliant, and we still won't ever run out. And this one, which is cicadas or cicadas, however you want to pronounce them, cicadas make sounds nearly 120 decibels loud. Now, I know, Rosie, you posted something on Facebook about a video. Was that cicadas making a ridiculous noise?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So loud at the moment.
Good girl.
Sorry, is that somebody speaking? I can't hear.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, somebody else speaking. But yeah, go ahead, Rosie. Yeah, Rosie, yes, because you have them, a lot of them there, don't you?
Oh, at the moment they are so loud they drown out any other noise that's around. They're extraordinary. Really
Right.
loud.
Yeah.
I mean, 120 decibels. That's the equivalent of standing very close to a tube train going past. That's a Motorhead front row.
That's
That's
amazing,
really loud. 120
It is loud.
dB. Yeah.
I know, incredible. Okay, but this is kids, so that there are some kind of fairly obvious ones here. So I just want to point this one out. The life cycle of a mosquito, which I'm sure you all know, it features 4 stages. So that's eggs, larva, pupa, and adult. Okay. Now I wanted to round that up. In my world, that means egg. Just ignore it. Don't worry about it. Larva, that's trout food. If you're a fly fisherman like me, that's trout food. If it's pupa, that's more trout food. And basically adult, that's the biting bastard. That's it. That's the only life cycle I know about mosquitoes. It's those things. And of course, again, I'm sure most of you know this, it's actually the female mosquitoes that drink the blood. Isn't that just typical, really, frankly? And do anybody know why the females like the blood of us humans? Anybody?
It's a protein, isn't it?
It is. It's nutrients. Absolutely. It's the protein to produce the eggs. Okay. I thought that was a really interesting little fact, if it's true, but it was on a bona fide website, so it must be.
And of course, they're the most dangerous animal in the world.
Well, that's true. They kill more people, don't they? Than
Or the most dangerous to us, that is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
AJ,
Yes.
are we
Yes.
supposed to be able to see a cicada?
No, I'm just talking at the moment, and then we're going to go to all your lovely pictures. Okay.
That's okay then.
We're just looking at a damselfly for a moment. Right. A quick question. Who can answer this? Which continent are bees not found on?
Antarctica.
Correct. Antarctica. Absolutely. So it's the only continent that they haven't established on, for obvious reasons. And the last one, ants leave trails and communicate with each other using pheromones as chemical signals, which I probably thought was a little bit like a night out in Cardiff, maybe. I don't know. I've been out on a night out in Cardiff. There was a lot of pheromones going on, a lot of signalling. Okay, right. So what I thought, we're just going to go through your pictures now, guys, and we're going to get you all to just say something just very quickly about the image, or tell us a little bit about the story. So the first person up tonight is Howard. So Howard, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just tell us about, is this a grasshopper or a cricket, Howard? Or
It's
do
a
you
cricket.
even know? There you go. Very good.
I don't know which one,
No.
but I haven't picked up the camera for weeks for various reasons. And then when you said about the insect pictures, I thought, sod it, I need to go and get some. So I went and just sat in the local nature reserve in the middle of nowhere. And I did a whole load of pictures, some of which are up on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this cricket, he was hiding round the other side. So it was literally just the 2 legs and his eyes visible. And every time I went round one way, he went the other. And we just played around this stalk for about half an hour. And then eventually he got bored and just sat still. So I just thought, oh, I like that.
Cool.
Green on green. It was a bit hard. And it was taken using the 300mm lens with 1.4 converter on the Olympus.
Okay.
Which meant I didn't have to get too close, but close enough.
Brilliant. Okay, that's good. And I think actually the point you make there about the lens that it was taken on is an important one, because I think we often think that insect photography has to be macro photography, and it absolutely doesn't have to be macro photography. The telephoto is a brilliant insect photographing tool, isn't it, for us? And of course the macro has a special way of capturing detail and getting that close-up stuff, but I think, as we'll see tonight, there's quite a lot of telephoto action going on, so that's really good. And we're not going to do, you know, we might pick up on the odd thing on these photos as we go through, but we kind of felt it was nice to hear from you guys tonight, so we're not going to do critiques on them, so on all of them as we go. So thank you, Howard. Thank you for that. Just going to move on to Christine. Christine, are you there?
I am.
So tell us about this. Is this another Olympus picture?
I'm afraid it is. Yeah,
That's all right.
it's. I nearly said it's from my favourite lens, but I've been using all of them so much I can't really allocate one as favourite anymore. Yeah, this was quite a fun session because I was sitting in the house and Mike suddenly said, "Oh, there's something, come and see the poppies, they're opening up." And what he really meant was I found a shield bug. And I then spent a happy half hour with my 60mm macro lens. And this is focus stacked, I'm pretty sure. And I just loved his face and the angle of him and his legs. Okay, you know, he's not completely in focus front to back, but that's kind of what you expect. But the nice shield bit at the front with those like poppy seed black bits is fun, and his eyes are nice and everything.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's a lovely texture. So this is the Olympus's in-camera stacking facility that you've used then.
I would have done both.
Right.
What I usually do is stack in camera, and it produces a JPEG.
Mm-hmm.
So when I import them into Lightroom, I group them all into a stack and then compare all the JPEGs and decide which ones I want to take over into Photoshop, and then use Photoshop to stack using the auto align layers in Photoshop.
Yeah, no, cool.
And this is actually a Photoshop stacked image.
Right. Okay, no, that's great. And I think it's interesting that actually with this, because I'll probably talk a bit about stacking later on as we go, but it's focus stacking, but we've still got a relatively limited depth of field, which I like actually. I like that look. So I think it works really well. God, whose dog's that? Oh, it's gone quiet.
It's been muted.
Clearly been muted. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think this is a lovely image. It's really good, and I like that triangular shape of it, and it's got that wonderful fan arrangement with the, as you described it nicely, as the poppy seeds sort of spattering across there. But yeah, the depth of field is fantastic, or the lack of depth of field, and it doesn't look like a traditional focus stacked image. So it's a nice job. Well done, Christine.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, excellent. Right, going to move on. If, by the way, I think John said this, but just speak. If you don't want to speak, or you don't have a microphone or whatever else, if I ask you up and then we don't hear anything from you, then we will just say something about your picture. So don't feel obliged or put on the spot. Okay, Claire, are you there and happy to speak to us, Claire, about your lovely bee in flight shot?
Yeah, I am here.
Hello, Claire. Right. Okay. So tell us about the shot, the setup, how you got this shot. I think it's a cracker.
It was taken on a 100mm macro,
Mm-hmm.
f8, 5,000th of a second, and 10,000 ISO.
Wow.
I've been painting my house, which is black, and I like the black background.
Yeah.
I took loads of these pictures. I found it quite challenging to actually get something that was sharp.
Yeah.
Get something that was actually horizontal, and try and get the wings in focus.
So is this a pre-focus, Claire? Have you pre-focused on the flower, or are you just trying to pick up on the actual?
No, I was just focusing on the bee as it came in and out.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's some fast-moving focusing going on there.
It is, yeah. I mean,
think-
that's difficult. I mean, certainly with a macro lens. I mean, you know, you've got such a limited depth of field to get something sharp like this. You've done bloody well with that, I think. Sorry, John, I interrupted you there.
No, I was just saying it's amazing because this is 5,000th of a second. Did you say, Claire?
Yeah.
And we've still got that movement we can see in the wing of the bee. So they flap fast.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah. I think I said the other week, didn't I? If you don't get a fast enough shutter speed, or if you don't have a bit of a blip of flash going in to try and help freeze it a little bit, you might not even see the wing showing on the shot at all. So you've done well. So so the background is the house, did you say?
Yes, it's a barn which I just painted
okay.
black.
Ah,
It was
okay.
brown, so it's nicely newly painted black when it
right.
set off
Perfect.
the
Perfect. There you go. All right.
It's
well,
nice.
I did try quite a lot on 4,000th of a second, and
Yeah.
they were hopeless. So
Right, made that difference. Yeah, it does. I think, you know, like anything, you know, where we've got a few insects flying in flight tonight. You know, if you're going for anything in flight with insects, it's got to be really, really fast. And, you know, Claire's done the right thing, push that ISO right up to get that speed that she needs. So that's absolutely the right way to do it. So brilliant. Thank you, Claire. Great shot. Really
Well
like
done,
that
Claire.
one. So
thank you.
excellent. Right, Basil, you're up. I'm assuming you don't also have a Damoiselle perch. This is just down at your local river, or is it?
No, this is outside my kingfisher hide.
Ah, there you go.
I got a shed now instead of my little hide. We put a garden shed in there, and I got bored waiting for the kingfishers to come, and this one came and sat on there, and that's a 500 lens.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So
okay.
again, the telephoto side of it. What I'm interested in this shot, Basil, and you know, just to pick up the color on the wings. Was that the light that you had on the day? Is this a sort of is there sort of sunlight, kind of warm lighting that's done
Yeah,
that?
it's ordinary sunlight. I would say, well, I'm normally gone from the hide by about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. So
Right.
I get in there earlier and I leave. Yeah, that'd be around about 8:30, something like that in the morning.
Yeah.
It's the
Great.
female, isn't it? It's the female damsel.
I think it's the male actually, but I don't know where its bands are because it's not green. It's got the deeper green than the lighter green of the female. I'm looking.
I couldn't tell you which it is.
It-
It just come and sat on that bramble leaf, and I thought, yes, thank you.
I'm pretty sure it's the male, Paul.
Yeah.
I can see a
maybe
better
it's just
quality.
hatched.
Well, it could be. I was intrigued by the lack of the banding, which gives it its name on that myself.
No. You've got a beautiful demoiselle that doesn't have a band.
Is that so? This is another variation of the Damoiselle that's not the banded, right? Okay,
Yeah, it's a
brilliant.
beautiful demoiselle as opposed to a banded demoiselle.
Right, gotcha, beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. So we're learning. No, that's great. That's chip in. This is the whole point tonight. I mean, I don't know every single insect out there. Of the many millions out there, I know about 3. Ladybird, which is called, which in Norfolk is called a Bishy Barnaby. I have no idea why.
Barnaby.
My wife's from Norfolk and has told me this in the past. I'm like, Bishy Barnaby. Anyway, I know that. I know the banded damsel and I know butterfly, but not necessarily the species. Joking, really, but there you go. Okay, thank you, Basil. That's great. So 500, so again, telephoto shot. So just interesting to see this variety between macro and telephoto, you know, as the two main weapons. Right, Rosie, you're there, I know, because we've spoken to you already. Now, tell us a little bit, I mean, the antenna on it. How does this thing fly? It's unbelievable.
I know the only thing I ever see when it's flying is its antennae. And then you suddenly see this tiny little critter and you can't see any color until you look at it with, say, a macro, which is what I've done here. It's incredibly beautiful.
It's like a mother of pearl effect on its wings, isn't it?
And you never see that with it. Well, I can't see it with my naked eye. Maybe I'm blind, but no, it's such a pretty little thing, but it is tiny. It's shorter than your sort of little fingernail.
Really?
Absolutely.
And do you know, sorry, do you know what it's called? What is it?
It's a fairy longhorn moth, I think.
Fairy
Was it
longhorn moth.
Pauline or Sally? Someone told me about this when I put it up on Facebook.
Probably Sally. I've decided she's our resident insect expert who we're going to for every question. Sally?
I don't know.
Oh, well, you've let me down. Outrageous.
Look it up now.
Well, of course, this is in your garden in the south of France, Rosie.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's actually on a box plant, so the leaf is, you can tell how tiny the leaf should be. So that
Right.
gives you an idea of how small the.
And is the image cropped at all?
A little bit, not too much actually.
Right,
And it's
okay.
a 100 macro, 2.8
Right.
Canon.
Yeah.
I think with that central composition, you made a great choice with the antennae there.
That's
Was
what
the-
makes it.
Yeah, that's what works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was the plant watered down, or is that natural dew, or did you give it a spray first? Was that
Natural.
natural? Lovely.
They do have rain in the south of France, John. It's only occasional.
I've never come across it down there, so it's rare to see.
It might have been our garden watering system now, I think.
No, that's great. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. No, really, really nice. Again, you know, it is the antenna in this one that makes it. I mean, it's just, you just think, how does this thing that's so tiny manage to fly with those things sort of, it's a bit like your hair, John. I mean, how do you run with that flapping behind you?
Well, I have the same. I haven't flown for ages now, so it does give me the same sort of trouble. So yeah, I can see how it happens. Evolution's weird, isn't it?
It is. Okay, Graham, you are there, hopefully somewhere. I love this shot. So just tell us a little bit about this shot, Graham.
The wife volunteers for the Manhood Peninsula Wildlife Group.
Mm-hmm.
They go around clearing ditches, and when they have a flooded ditch, they make a pond out of it.
Right.
On the banks of one of those ponds. Best
Yep.
bit is nobody in there. But it's taken with a telephoto again. I think
Right.
it's meadow brown.
Yeah.
As opposed
Okay.
to a gatekeeper.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. What I particularly like about this, Graham, is the fact that, you know, and actually we're seeing that a lot tonight. You know, I guess maybe that's partly because you're all using telephotos as well as macro to do it, as we said, but you're allowing the environment to become a really important part of the picture here. And actually, for my tastes in photography, I like to see insect with environment a lot of the time. I think that makes it much more kind of a vibrant image than just a close-up or a record of a butterfly in that sense. So I really like the shot.
When you have that context of its surroundings, it just makes more of a shot in many ways, because if you've got the really tight close-up, it can be like a nature study, but it looks kind of forensic in some respects. But when you have the environment included, it really adds something to the image. And there's some fantastic colors going on here as well, and everything complements each other really nicely. So nice one, Graham.
Absolutely. Yeah, great shot. Really enjoyed that, looking at that one. So the next up is Sarah. Now, Sarah, are you happy to talk to us?
Yes.
Hello. Right. Sarah sent this to me this morning and said that she's only just started playing around with macros. Not a bad start, is it? So tell us about how you took it.
One.
Go on, tell me about it.
Well, I was just out. I got a macro lens for Christmas, and lockdown, I thought, oh, let's go out and have a play with this, and yeah, that's what I was doing really. Just, I don't really understand macro, and so I was just sort of, I was looking for bees actually.
Right.
There weren't many bees about, so I just happened to see this shield bug, and it had rained on the irises, and I just thought, oh, that's quite nice, let's have a go. So it's one of many.
No, that's fine. I think the interesting thing about macro, and it's just sort of your point there that you were looking for bees. I think when you put a macro lens on and then you start looking, you suddenly realize just how much life there is in a small patch of flowers or vegetation, and stuff that you don't notice normally. Admittedly, it's got harder now. I've had to wear reading glasses because I have to have the glasses on peering around for stuff. But that's the thing about macro, is it's suddenly, once you get into the zone, and the more you get into the zone, the more things you notice. Did you find that, Sarah, as you were looking, that you found all sorts of different things, and things that you wouldn't have noticed for any other reason other than the fact that you were looking for small things to photograph?
Yes, yeah, because I did an ant as well, and normally you'd never bother, would you?
No.
With an ant.
No,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, it certainly focuses your mind on the smaller little things. So yeah, it's
I really like what you've done here, Sarah, because there's sort of three things really. You've got the color contrast is fantastic because we've got the green of the bug and the purple of the flower petal, and then you've got the water, which adds that sort of sense of scale and that sense of extra interest, and then you've got that really strong diagonal leading you in from the top right, which makes it a really bold composition. But I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, great shot. Really good. By the way, Mary, I know you're still listening. I have got warnings for you at the appropriate time. So, but you can rest really easy at the moment. There are no spiders at the moment.
Okay. Thank you.
I just thought I'd add that. I know Adrian's not with us. He couldn't be with us tonight, but he sent an image through. I thought that we should look at. I think I just love the antlers on this.
Yeah.
It's really kind of really nice, cool shot. And actually, it's the angle of the head that makes this shot for me. And often, because macro, you're looking at something so sort of, it sounds a little bit of a cliche, say it's the tiny details that make the difference, but it really is where macro photographs are concerned, and it can be the slightest turn of a head or the slightest movement of an antennae in one direction or a leg that can make a difference between it being a successful shot or a not so successful shot. And when we were looking at all your images a little bit earlier, John and I always run through them just quickly once, so we both sort of had a look at them. We were really kind of engaged with how clever you'd been with your composition and how you'd left the space. That we were talking about positive and negative space, weren't we, in the composition thing the other week? But how so many of you had done that and been using it in the right way. And I think this is a perfect example of it from Adrian. So it's good.
Yes, it is, and yeah, just that slight angle of the head, the fact that the left antlers, just coming round, it almost looks side on, but when you notice the antlers, you do see that slight twist of the head, and as you say, the active space that it's moving into just makes it well, and of course the colours, that vibrant green and vibrant red, clash of primaries there, it's fantastic.
You love your colour stuff, John.
I do like my colour stuff.
It's like, anyway, there you go. Right.
That's why I'm such a fan of black and white.
Yeah, exactly. The next shot, I'm going to be, I probably shouldn't do this. This is a bit like, the parent saying the number 3 child is the favourite and upsetting all the others. But I'm going to say that of the shots tonight, they're all great, and there's some real corkers in here. This is my favourite shot, from tonight, and it's Jerry's. So, Jerry, just tell us about this shot, because I love it.
Well, thank you very much. It's an emperor dragonfly that actually is in the pond that I built several years ago, or had built 3 years ago. The pond has gradually come to fruition, having been nothing in there at all when it was built, obviously just filled with water, a couple of plants put in, but now it's actually generating an enormous amount of life. And this was an emperor dragonfly that came out of the swamp, as it were, a couple of weeks before this, and then came back to lay the eggs in it. So I was absolutely delighted to see it, and I'm really delighted to actually see the number of dragonflies, damselflies, and darters that have been coming out of the pond, and so on, as well as the pond skaters and so on and so forth. So yeah, result really, newts and frogs and all sorts in there. So and this I sort of caught as didn't catch it, but it was I saw it coming back because I've been keeping an eye on the pond specifically, and again it was taken with a 100 to 400 zoom with a couple of extension tubes on it. I was only probably between 2 and 3 feet away from this. Leaning over the pond, hoping I wasn't going to drop anything into it. But it was, she was there for probably about half an hour, I guess, moving around the various bits of blanket weed that I'd let build up. And that was the result.
Is this one of the ones you shot with smaller raw files by accident that you were talking about on the lounge, or not?
This one wasn't. No, this is
good.
Some other ones that I had actually regrettably screwed up. But hey, that's life.
Well, yeah, but they're still files. If I know, it's just. But no, I think that this is, we were talking about space and environment, and And the reason that John and I both went wow when we saw this shot is that sense that it really pulls you into that world. And you say, as you say, the blanket weed, which isn't something every pond owner wants. I have it on my little wildlife pond as well. But actually, in terms of insect life, and in terms, in this case, of the way you've got this, it just sort of helps hold up that picture. And you're lying down on your grass somewhere, are you?
Well, I actually built the pond so that it's a couple of feet above, because it's
clever.
I only have about 5 to 6 inches of topsoil on the bedrock in most of the garden. So actually I had to build it up. And that was actually by design anyway, because I really didn't want to spend my life lying down on my face.
No.
So.
Fair. No, I think that's the good move. I regrettably haven't done that with my little wildlife pond, but if we move, or when we move, because we will do it at some point in the next couple of years, I'm going to have a new, hopefully bigger wildlife pond built, and I might do it about 4 foot off the ground, so that I don't have to spend my life.
Haven't even got a bend, yes.
Exactly. As my knees give up on me. No, I think this was genuinely, we just thought it was a lovely moment, and there's something happening. It all kind of worked. The only little niggle, and it is a niggle, it's just that a little bit of, I love the bokeh, but that, if I was you, Jerry, I just clone it out. You could easily clone that out. It's not, I don't think that's cheating at all. I think it's not something that it's only there because of the angle of a light reflecting off something else.
Yeah.
Just take it out and then absolutely spot on. So
Do you know the reason I left that in was because I knew you were going to mention it. But
exactly.
Actually,
thank you.
Because it's the water drop coming down. And it's, to me,
is that what it is?
Yeah, it adds a bit of dynamism to it. But yeah, I know you're absolutely right. And I was really in two minds as to whether to
I think you know that, but I don't know that looking at it. All we see is just this little thing that keeps just making me
just a little distraction.
So I think it would be better for it. But anyway, apart from that, absolutely terrific shot. Really, really good. That's great.
Yeah, it's a cracking shot. That
Thank
it
you
reminded
very
me
much.
of a production design on a film set, because it does have that kind of alien look to it, and it's the depth of field, or the shallow depth of field. I think if you went widescreen with it, you'd have virtually an alien movie on your hands. So
it's a bit.
It's a lovely shot.
It's awesome. Okay, Dick's been photographing flying bees as well. There's a few flying bees tonight. And again, Dick, are you there?
I'm there.
I'm guessing telephoto. Am I right?
Nope. Macro.
Oh, what? Damn. I thought you only ever got out your telephoto, Dick. Come on.
Oh, now come on, boys. No, there were 2 points in this one. I was chasing cuckoos.
Okay.
And they weren't playing ball, and I was bored. So I was laid down in the undergrowth here, but being eaten alive by wood ants at the same time. But the nice thing with this one that made me laugh, when I found out what species is, this is a cuckoo bumblebee.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Right.
You cuckoo anyway.
Can we just check,
really
Sally, is he right? We need to check with the guru. Sally, cuckoo bumblebee, is Dick correct?
Of course he's right. Yeah.
Exactly. I knew he would be.
Yeah, so it was, they were flying around. Well, you know what the bees are like. So it was a case of just hunting and trying to work my way through the undergrowth and see if I could get a shot. But I quite liked this one because I wanted the wings to be mobile, and there was some nice little bits of pollen still around its head there. So yeah, so that was really what I was doing.
Great. No, absolutely. Great stuff. Again, not easy shot to get, as we all know. Played around trying to get a bees in flight shot with a macro lens. It's a tough one. So well done for getting it. Brilliant. Okay, next one up. Now, this is Jane. Now, I have to confess, Jane, you are there, aren't you? Is she there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, you're there. Okay, so I actually emailed Jane earlier and asked her, is this the right way up? Because I kept wanting to turn my head to the left to look at it. So come on, Jane, talk to us about this picture. Is it I haven't looked at, is it a cinnabar moth, Sally, caterpillar? Is that right?
What I reckon it is.
It
Right.
is, yeah. It's got a football jersey on, hasn't it?
So that's why I know. That's why I know. It's Watford Town.
No, it's wolves. It's wolves.
Oh, could be. Oh, yeah, could be. Anyway, Jane, you haven't got very good sound from you, but tell us about this shot. What, go for it.
It's the equivalent of the bird on a stick.
Can't hear you. Sorry.
Equivalent to bird on a stick.
Bird on a stick. Right.
Hold on.
Oh, that was better. But
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's all right. I swapped over from TV sound to laptop sound. This is the equivalent of bird on a stick. I had bought some flowers from my mother-in-law, and one of the flower heads fell off. So I've got it clipped on a stand and put it on the garden table in front of my pear tree, and went and found the Wolverhampton Wrigley caterpillar and stuck it on there.
There you. So you are doing the sort of the set building. That's what's happening here, John, isn't it? A little bit of set building and going for it. Yeah.
A bit of insect production design going on. Yeah. Well, that's a perfectly valid way of shooting insects. I think it's normally the approach for still life, but there's no reason why you shouldn't do setups like that. I think it works quite effectively.
It does. And when I said to Jane earlier that it could have been either upright or a landscape, she said, yeah, it could have been, but if it was upright, that would be too normal for her. And that's her words, not mine. I'm just repeating them. Terrific. Anyway, cool. Thank you very much for
well done, Jane.
Thank you. Right, next one up. Again, this is I know we get dragonflies and damsels, a lot of them tonight. They are very popular. An absolutely terrific shot from the Harrogate hawker himself, Barry. Barry, come on, this has to be a ridiculously fast shutter speed and a telephoto, yeah?
Yeah. This was with the Olympus 300 equating to 600. Emperor, same as Jerry's. And believe it or not, once you've watched them a few times, they tend to do the same flight pattern. And there was what's called a four-spotted chaser dragonfly that kept on, by the name, chasing off this dragonfly. And the best thing that I found with the Olympus was focus limit the telephoto lens to I think it was 4 meters. Then it's not searching all the time.
Yeah.
So all I basically did was there was lily pads underneath, which emperors like. So, and the lily pads underneath was about the same distance that the dragonfly was flying in. So I just kept on aiming it down to the lily pads and then bringing it up as the dragonfly came in. And then once I could get a blurred image of the dragonfly, press autofocus and then just fire off,
Yeah, no, it's
what ended up about 2,500 shots.
out of that many, how many did you get that you were happy with?
I'd probably about, believe it or not, once you've got the pattern worked out, I probably got about 400.
Wow.
It's just that this one just tilted its head a little bit, which made it a little bit better than just flying, straight on.
Yeah,
that's a great example of when you're doing nature photography, to spend some time just watching rather than get the camera to your eye. Just watch the behavior and see if you can find the patterns that are going to follow. But it's a cracking shot, Barry. You can see where Star Wars got the idea for the X-Wing from, can't you?
Yeah. Yes, I guess so. I don't know anything about Star Wars, so I'm just going, yeah, great. Hello. Anyway, okay, no, brilliant, great shot. I know you say not easy. You've made it sound easy, but it isn't easy. But doing the kind of shortening the focus, how it doesn't have to hunt so much, is absolutely the right way of going about it. You can do that with not just with emperors, obviously, with birds, anything. You can use that technique, can't you? So that's great. Okay, Naomi is up next. Naomi,
I've got no idea what it is.
No, but what flower is this? Do we know?
I think it might be a poppy.
A poppy, okay. I was trying to guess earlier, and John thought I was a girl, but I got it wrong if it's a poppy. Anyway, tell us about the shot. It's a lovely one. I love the fact, I know you sent 3, and I picked this one out of the 3 you sent through because I liked the fact that it was sort of in this little slot and kind of you were sort of peeping into its world. Is that what attracted you to the composition?
Yeah, I sort of gave up on trying to get everything in focus and that. So I thought I'd more be interested in what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
And I thought if I was going for a walk inside a flower, what might it look like?
Okay. Fair enough. It's I think and it's on a macro lens though. This is macro, not telephoto, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a macro lens with a magnifying glass screwed on the end.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right.
Right. Okay. And so do you see any drop off in quality with that,
No.
or does that work perfectly okay?
No, it's sort of a bit spray and pray.
Right.
So if I get anything, it's a lucky accident.
So it's actually a screw-on diopter then, a close-up filter.
I don't know what it is. It just screws on the end.
So is it like a circling that screws properly into the
Yeah, it screws
thread
properly into the
it is.
filter.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. Yeah, that's what it sounds like, John, doesn't it? Yeah.
Times 3.
They're great tools, actually, those
Yeah,
close-up
really
filters,
fun.
because they can turn any lens into a well, not into a full macro. Obviously, Naomi started with a macro here, but they're great because you don't lose any light. A lot of things like using extension tubes and all sorts, they rob you of some light. But the close-up diopters or close-up filters that just screw on, you can just shoot as normal with them. And people talk about that. They complain that it gives you issues of chromatic aberration and all sorts. But only if you're really looking for it. They're pretty good. So it's always, and they're not too expensive either. So they're a great way into close-up photography if you don't have a dedicated macro lens.
I just got this off Amazon.
Okay.
It was sort of cheap and cheerful.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun playing with it.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
it's great. I know. I really like the shot. Well, I like all three of them. So, but it was just, I thought there was something about this kind of the bee sort of, it's like secretive in there, hiding in its own little world that I rather liked.
I like this sort of marbly texture in the poppy as well that occupies the top third of the frame. There's that sort of, that strange mottled pattern that runs through it. Just all lends to it. It's got that mixture of abstract and close-up insect. So it's nice.
Yeah, totally.
It looks
Brilliant.
like a
Thank
wasp.
you.
It looks like a wasp to me.
Oh, it could be. Yeah,
Yeah.
potentially. Yes, you're probably right, actually, looking at it pull up close. It's got that sort of bigger banding on the back, hasn't it?
What
But-
does Sally say?
It's not, it's a bee.
Really?
Furry. Look how furry it is.
What's that program where they have the expert who knows everything that they have to ask on quiz thing?
Sorry.
No, it's
What,
good.
the chase you're thinking,
The
or something
chase,
like
yes.
that. Yeah.
So yeah, Sally's the what are they called? One's
the
called
beast or something, isn't
right.
it?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's perfect. So Sally's the insect beast.
The insect beast.
It's just called being a bit OTT about looking things up in books, basically.
No, that's good. Which we know from your composition for your secrets or your
Indeed,
lockdown pleasures. So
That
yeah.
was the idea, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All
I think
good.
Sally is the exact opposite of me because I never look anything up at all.
Well, it's a good job you're friends then, isn't it? Because then that gives Sally something to do and saves you the bother. So it works
Exactly.
perfectly.
Win-win.
It's a symbiotic relationship, I feel.
It works.
Indeed. Okay, thank you for that, Naomi. That's really cool. Right, this is Rob's shot. I'm just so you know, obviously this is an upright shot, so ignore the left-hand side where his name is. So the left-hand edge is the reed stem in the middle, and then the right-hand side is obviously the right-hand edge is the out of the frame shot. So you might just want to cover that a little bit. Rob and Imogen. Rob, I know you put a version of this into the critique gallery, which was differently cropped, but this is the full untampered version.
Yes, it is. So I originally, as you said, I originally cropped this one. I saw it was quite a harsh crop, sort of almost just around the bottom damselfly. And the reason I kind of went for that, because to me, I found the kind of detail in the one above it a little bit distracting, because you could see more. I kind of like the more alien looking, just sort of more harsh silhouette of the bottom one. That was what I was looking for with that. But some other comments on the critique lounge did suggest kind of having a look at it this way. The reason I went for black and white, I actually got a couple of shots of this, one where basically the light was shining on it, so it was from over my shoulder. But in this one, the cloud basically came over, so I had two side by side. So it was, when I looked at them on the screen, it was, one was obviously that the blue and green colour there, which wouldn't have lended itself to black and white. But this one, I think, because it was basically in the cloud, no direct sunlight, it kind of naturally appeared to kind of be calling out for just making it black and white. And I like the kind of the kind of detail on the wings as well. I think that all is really nice.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a really good shot. Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely love it. Yeah, I think of the two, you know, I prefer this one, which is a more, if you like, the more traditional way of doing it. I think maybe the other one was just almost too radical in a sense, because you were like, well, where's this coming from? I think this is a terrific shot, though. I really do. I still think maybe it might, from a graphic point of view, I mean, if you could push it a bit in Photoshop or Lightroom and see if you could get it almost completely silhouetted, be interesting to see what that looks like. I don't know whether it will work 100%, but it would be interesting to get that. What do you think, John?
You could give that a try, because it's, I think if you're going to go for that bleached background, make sure it's gone pure white, and you can do that quite quickly if you just open up levels or curves in Photoshop and use the white eyedropper. Click on the darkest part of your white background, and that will turn the whole lot to white. And then you could do the same thing with the black eyedropper. Click on the darkest part of one of the flies, and that will you know, render them as silhouettes pretty much. So 2 clicks, and you could have a look at that to see how it works. But I think it's really striking.
Yeah,
as Andrew says, very graphical in terms of its composition. What is the background, Rob? Is that cloudy sky, or is that something else?
Yeah, no, it's just sky. It was, I think, where I was on a nature reserve, and it was on a high bank, so you kind of, I think we're looking up, so it was on the reed, so up, and I'm pretty sure that's just the sky opposite. And I think because it was predominantly cloudy there, it's just sort of almost burnt it out, but it is just that.
Yeah, I wondered if Imogen had sneaked in with a sheet of A4 or something like that behind them.
She would have got wet doing that if she had.
All good, brilliant. Okay, thank you very much for that, Rob. Another great shot. There's such good shots tonight, really are, really good. Mary, still no spiders, Mary, and it's now your bee shot. So tell us a little bit about your bee shot, which I love, because I love the way the petals from the flower, you're going to tell me what flower it is in a moment, are folding over it. It's lovely.
It's a peony.
Oh, yes. John,
you got that
what did
right.
I tell you earlier?
Yeah, but you did say every flower we saw on screen was a peony, so you're going to be right at some... Or did you say piano? It was one of the two, anyway.
I said peony for everything, even Naomi's poppy, if I'm honest, but there you go. But I knew I'd get one right in the end. Anyway, sorry, Mary, carry on.
I'd been doing 2 things. It's taken with a macro. I have had some beautiful peonies, and trying to just get right in and get some macro of just the different shapes and everything. I'd also been trying to get some bees in flight. It was never successful. And then I'd been following this one around, and it landed where, you know, just compositionally, I quite liked it. And I liked the fact that it's got lots of pollen all over it. So it was a sort of merging 2 things, but neither of them had been particularly successful. So hopefully this one is okay.
Yeah, no, it is very much okay. The actual, the peony reminds me a little bit of like a cream cake, with the sort of the filling spilling out
as it's being squeezed as you bite into it.
And maybe the fact I've not eaten much today and I'm hungry, but anyway. Thank you, Mary. Lovely.
Yeah, well done, Mary. It's a fantastic spread of colours in there as well. Looks really good.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got another dragonfly shot. Pauline, tell us about this. Is this your local nature reserve where both you and Tom go and do stuff at?
No, it's not local. Well, it's fairly local. It's about 45 minutes away. It's a dragonfly on a stick.
Yeah, it is. Well spotted.
It's a 4-spot chaser. It was taken with a zoom lens. At about 400mm. 400 so.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, and that focal length again. It's helped to clean that background for you, because
I really like this one, because I think it was fairly freshly emerged, I think, because the colour is just like copper. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's
So-
it is a nice color. Yes, it's not. It's kind of an interesting color. It's not too in your face, but it kind of it just kind of works, doesn't it? The only thing, and John and I were debating earlier, is again, it's that one reed that's slightly out of focus at the bottom. We'd probably just, you know.
I think going with the clone tool or the healing brush, because that
so
background.
Yes, absolutely. We are picky. That's our job, to be picky.
Honestly, Pauline, clone out the dragonfly, sorted that shot. that would do it.
And do you know what? I'd lose the stick as well, John, frankly.
Yeah,
The stick can
and
go.
that background, maybe blur it a bit more.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
the background is fantastic. I love that background you've got there, and it's just that distraction down at the bottom. I think if you whip that out, it'll be fantastic. The other thing I wondered about was whether this could maybe work as a vertical shot.
Yeah, maybe.
Rather than the more square format you've gone for. It
I
could
quite
work
like
as
the space, though. I quite like the
Mm-hmm.
space of the square sometimes. I see what you mean. It would probably be more obvious because you've got the diagonal going through corner to corner. But yeah,
might be worth a
either way.
try. But I love it. I
Yeah.
love that background. It's fantastic.
It is. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, Pauline. Excellent. And yes, we are picky, but there you go. If we weren't, what would we? We'd have nothing to say, would we? We'd just be all, you know, like, well, whatever.
We'd just
Even
say,
noticed
nice
that
dragonfly.
Okay, it's taken us up till 1853 to get to a moth. With all the moth conversation that goes on in the lounge currently, with all the Mothmen, I can't believe it's taken us so long to get to a moth. Phil Abraham, who is one of the main Mothmen, tell us about this rather, well, to me, it looks again a bit like an alien creature. You've been doing a lot of moth trapping, haven't you, Phil?
Yeah. It's it came out of a project. I had a load of scrap plywood, and I thought, I've always wanted a moth trap. I'll build one, which I did. And this is about the third iteration, initially of the lighting on the moth trap, and now I've got the lighting of the set sorted. Because this is actually a set on a table with a couple of video lights. I think it's about 60-40 on the balance.
Yeah.
And this is a 19 frame stack.
Okay. Wow.
So the D850 will do the focus stacking for you, or the focal shifting for you, and then it's taken into via Lightroom into Photoshop, aligned and blended, and this is what results.
That sounds like a right old technical task, Phil.
It's fun. It's fun. Some work, some don't. But these are quite good because they're quite dopey. You've got to get out early when it's cold, so they'll sit there, or you can chill them. But fortunately, no. And this just sat there quietly and let me do my thing. So yeah.
And your background there, Phil, what's you've constructed that as well?
No, that is what I've got is just a table on a patio, and that is sort of dead reeds on the far side of the pond.
Okay.
So it's probably 2.5 meters between the moth and the background, but this is 105 macro f16 1/60th, I think it is. So you know you're quite, and it's very, very close.
So is the kind of, obviously we've got a little bit of blue hint in the background as well as on the moth. Is that just a coincidence, or have you done a bit of tinting on this?
No, it's very, very tricky because that bluish in the background is actually a dark green of some lily pads and bits and bobs. But on the moth, that is just the way the light was refracting on the wing.
Right.
Because it's very tricky for the light balance. I spend a lot of time with the white card first off, because I'm out there at about 5:45, and the sun is filtering through some oak trees. So you've got an orange light with a bit of a green filter going on it, and it's a very weird colour.
Mm. And your video lights, they're on tungsten balance or on daylight balance, are they?
They're on daylight balance.
Okay.
It's kind of the warm end. To try and mix up with the...
By video lights, we're talking about a constant light source in LED panels, I'm assuming you mean. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you for the...
well done.
Only moth, I can't remember. Oh, we'll find out as we go forward. Right. Haven't got too many to go, so we're doing all right for time. We might be slightly over, but there we go. Right. Rob. Where's Rob? Rob, tell me about your shot. Is that a peony? No, it's not, is it?
No, I think it's, Sally will tell me if I'm right or wrong. I think it's a bit of hawthorn. It was back in May when we took this.
Okay.
And it's as opposed to a 119 frame stack. This is a 1 frame stack.
Yeah, you're my kind. You're my kind of macro man.
Yeah, economical stacking. I like that.
I like that. Yeah.
It was. I bought macro not long before, and I hadn't really got out and about with it, and so we went up the field just behind the house. And although it was May, there were precious few insects around, believe it or not. We've got plenty of areas where they could have been, but there weren't any. But this was towards the end of the shoot, as we come back towards home, and it was on this, as I say, I think it's a hawthorn bush, and it was walking towards me, and I've got the settings here, 1600th on F10. I was really quite surprised, although it was F10. Being a macro, I'm still learning. How much out of focus it was, even at F10. But of course, that's the beauty of macro, isn't it? I suppose
it is. No, absolutely.
F64 is quite shallow depth of field on a macro lens, isn't it? So
it is. But no, I think it works really well. I think the only there's not criticism, but the thing I would, if I was going to go back and look at this, I might just tone those highlights in the background down a little bit.
Yeah.
They sort of, bless you, Phil, because they you're welcome, because they just pull my eye a little bit away from the beetle itself. So that's just something I might look at if you've got the raw still. I assume you have.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, apart from that, I mean, you know, I actually we were sort of debating earlier. Would it be, you know, is the crop right? Is it square? Yes, and Pauline, I know we're being picky again. I'm sorry, it's our job. But actually, I sort of quite like the way that the background sort of disappears on the right and gives you some sense of the environment still.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that actually.
I think it works well, and it just shows all that extra detail and that cumbersome journey you've got to make over the flower. So it's cool.
I think what I quite liked about it was you can see all the pollen that's hanging around.
Yes.
So it's obviously a busy little.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, great. No, nice one. Thank you very much, Rob, for that.
Thank you.
Next up is Paul. With again, I guess this is similar in one sense to Graham's shot, where you're including a lot of the whether it's a meadow or a wildflower bed, I don't know, but again, I like this. So Paul, tell us about the shot.
Okay, it was taken back end of last week when we had big winds, and it was very windy out there, hence some movement in the grasses and what have you. And it's a Brackett's coppice, and the wildflowers there at the moment are absolutely stunning. And I felt that for this particular shot, I wanted to include where this marbled white butterfly was actually feeding, and it's feeding on the greater knapweed, I think it is.
Can you just talk up a little bit for us, because I'm struggling to hear you, so I don't know if everybody else
Okay,
is.
is that better?
Thank you. Yes, that is.
Yeah. Okay. It's do I need to repeat anything?
We probably just got it, but just so carry on.
Okay, it's marbled white butterfly, very windy, Brackett's coppice. The flower meadows are absolutely superb. And I wanted to include the meadow itself in this particular shot. Focused on the butterfly, using my 40 to 150 telephoto on the Olympus system, which is 80 to 300. And it was at about f5.6.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And again, it just works, doesn't it? You know, if you wanted to show a species in a natural habitat, how it works, it does it really well. The only picky thing that Pauline, this is just talking to you. No, Pauline's not picky. I'm talking to Pauline because she likes us to be picky. John and I were arguing about earlier is the slanting stem of the grass. Does that get in the way or not? And there's nothing you can do about it because the butterfly lands somewhere and you take the shot.
If you try and move that, yes.
Exactly. I don't think it does it. Well, I think we sort of concluded in the end. Well, you could actually, but it would be a little bit of a job. But I mean, you're going to be on the Photoshop course, aren't you? Once after that, you'll be cloning that out right now tomorrow.
Clone that out, no trouble.
But
yeah.
It's a nature shot. You can't clone out nature shots.
Well, you can clone out bits, but I think I'm with you. I think I'd probably leave this one in. It was just one of those. It's like everything else. It sort of comes across at an angle, doesn't it? And we were debating it.
It's unfortunate, but It is what it is.
It is absolutely.
I love the contextual nature of the shot and the colours there. The only other thing of being ultra picky now, picky Pauline, it's the yellow. You've got to be so careful with yellows.
It's us that are picky.
Yeah, it is us. But the yellow flower at the top, the buttercup, is it, or is it dandelion?
It's a hawk. It's one of the hawk bits.
Oh right, it's lost its detail because yellow is such a difficult colour. You have to really watch those highlights.
Yeah, but it's also out of focus.
Doesn't matter if it's out of focus.
You've
It's just a highlight.
still got the light and shade on there.
Oh, well, you have to show me how to do this next week.
Yeah,
whack down your highlights, but yes, that'd help it. But
it is. Yellow's
it.
always the hardest, isn't it? Yellows and whites are obviously white, we know, but yellow's the other hardest one to do. Or where highlights are concerned, it can often blow stuff out. But
that's why DAFs are so notoriously difficult to shoot well. It's curious.
It's only, I mean, it's not. I don't think it's not too bad anyway. But okay, let's shift on. Thank you for that, Paul. Another great shot. Really like that. A terrific shot here. Such a simple shot from Tom. Another in-flight shot. I think it's kind of, you've got to really look at this because he's left a lot of space around it, which I think really works well. So come on, Tom, how did you get this?
It's one of about 1 million. Just hours spent just standing in the garden basically and hoping that the hoverflies would come within range. And I was really lucky with this because the light hit that, and as you can see, it hasn't really got on much of the background.
Yeah.
And talking about shutter speeds, that's actually at a 500th.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So quite slow then for an insect in flight.
But it's is it hovering? It's holding?
Yes.
Yes. So
yeah. I mean, we get loads of hoverflies in our garden, all sorts of different species. This is quite a reasonable size one, but it was taken with the 100 to 400 lens at 400.
Right. Okay.
F8.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I did what Barry was doing, focused on, well, basically the grass near where this had tended to come back and hover.
Yeah.
And then I was able to sort of lock focus on it when it came in the right spot. And I mean, I got hundreds of pictures that are just out of focus or just pointing the wrong way. But yeah, I like the way the light hit this one.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great. And Pauline, would you like to? We're not going to pick on anything on this. Just like it. Go on,
pick on him.
The left wing, if you could get it slightly slower in movement, that would.
I wanted something riding on it, like a woodpecker or something.
I like the background in this shot as well because it's really subtle, but it's all there. Just those little folds of green that are going in and out. It's really nice. That adds extra to it.
It does, and actually, that's a really good point, isn't it? I mean, we've seen some completely dark one, and they worked as well. But sometimes there's just a little bit of variation in it. Can just add a sense of depth that you don't maybe have when it's completely flat. I think so. Yeah, I do think that works. Yeah, no, really good shot.
It's interesting because there was another shot that I nearly put in, and the background was completely black.
Right.
I hadn't done anything to produce that. It was just the way the light was.
Just how it was. Yeah.
It'll be the exposure at the time and the angle of the light and all the rest of it, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Brilliant. And I also like the fact that you give a nice big Tom Dulwich 2020, so I don't have to type it into into Keynote. It saves me some work, so I like that. Thank you. Brilliant. Right, we're not doing too bad. We're nearly at the end. And Veronica, this isn't in your back garden, is it? Or she's maybe gone. She was there earlier. Are you with us? Very quiet.
Yes, sorry.
Hey, Ray.
Just for a moment.
That's right.
Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, yes. So is this in a glass house or is this on a holiday somewhere?
No, well, actually, it's a Southeastern Asian butterfly, but it made its way to Holland, strangely enough. No, it was a butterfly house.
Right.
And it's a paper kite. I took it about 2 years ago, so I can't fully remember my settings, but it was zoom rather than macro. And probably about 100 millimeters, about 5.6. And it was a really obliging butterfly because it just sat there. So,
Yeah, no, cool. It's great. I love it. I love the body, the way the body sort of it's like these are the sort of butterfly. If you're gonna make a cartoon butterfly, then you make one like this with a big body that's just dragging on the floor. Again, I was talking about character in insects, and this feels like it's got a lot of character. So I really cool. And the background's out nicely out of focus. It's everything works. Did you manage to? Were you able to move around and get shots from different angles on this one?
I could have done, yes, but I couldn't have got on the other side of it, just
Right.
behind or in front.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's because that's the only thing I say is if you could have done, I'd have sort of tried to
Gone in
angle my
front.
way and gone in front to
Yep.
try and get something, or certainly, and also obviously with a lot of insect stuff, it doesn't have to have it all in focus. We've been saying that all night, but if you with a long big wing like that, there's obviously quite a distance from your focal point, which is I'm thinking probably on the thorax area, and then the tips of that wing. So if you bring yourself around parallel more, you obviously get more in focus, and that might have just helped a little bit. But I like the way it's kind of looking in, and the actual the leaf, or the I think it's a large leaf, broadleaf that it's sitting on here, sort of points out that direction the same way that goes. So I think that works really well. So cool. Thank you very much. Great shot. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Right. Okay. So I think we're nearly at the end. I'm going to show you two shots now. This is Sally, the insect beast, the most knowledgeable insect person in the room. Well, in my room anyway. I want to show you two shots from Sally because and for a reason. So this is Sally's first shot. I'll invite you in a minute, Sally. But so this is the first one she sent me, which is a mayfly. I'm sure you, thank you. I'm a fly fisherman. I know my mayfly. When mayfly hatch, it's called Duffer's Fortnight in fishing terms, because if you can't catch a fish during the time that the mayfly are hatching, then you're a complete duffer because the trout go mad for them. So yeah, just on a teasel there, which I think is really nice. Now, Mary, this next slide is for you. Mary, look away now.
Right.
Okay. And this is Sally's other photo, which is a spider. Okay. So Sally, I think I know what this is, but I'm not going to take a guess because you'll tell me I'm wrong and I'll feel stupid.
It's not a peony, Andrew.
No, I know it's not a peony, but
just
what is it?
It's horrible.
What is it, Sally?
It's a nursery web spider.
Got it wrong. Oh, well, okay.
You find them. This is on Acid Heath near us, actually, just above Exmouth. There's a nature reserve, Devon Wildlife Nature Reserve there.
Okay. Now you said something really interesting, and the reason I've used both your images here, I'm just going to go away. Right, Mary, you can look again for a second. I will warn you when we go the other way. You said something really interesting, and we're kind of getting to the summing up kind of time now, guys. But you said here's two images. Pick which one you like, but I think the spider one is better. Why did you think? I'm not saying it isn't or it is. I'm just really interested in your thinking on this.
Well, obviously this one is a conversion to black and white because it looked too messy in colour, basically.
Yeah.
But I would like to have had more depth of focus in it. I think it was handheld. It was very windy, and it was quite difficult to isolate the mayfly away from the spikes of the teasel. I was in a reed bed, basically. It's not very comfortable. But I got there in the end.
Okay.
The spider was more.
Mary, look away.
Sorry, Mary. I did say to him you wouldn't like it. I actually went on a workshop a couple of weeks ago with You Know Who.
Yeah.
And he was talking me through handheld focus stacking, which I've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
And this was my first attempt with him not looking over my shoulder, telling me I wasn't parallel, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
So I was quite pleased with myself with this. It's 16 shot,
yeah,
handheld, and then stacked in Photoshop.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now that's a really interesting. I mean, they're both terrific shots. So hold on, Mary. Sorry. Right. Okay. You can look again, Mary. They're really terrific shots, a pair of them. But I kind of had that sense that maybe you thought you felt from your point of view, and you may be right. You're right because it's it's your picture, your decision. Out of the two, the picture that I would rather, never mind whether it's a spider or not. So it's not from Mary's perspective. The picture that I would rather look at is this one.
Okay.
I think it's from an artistic, creative point of view. I just love the way that the curve of the mayfly's tail just coming off kind of mimics the curve of I just felt that sometimes this is something, particularly with macro shots, where we often maybe look for the technical sometimes over the creative bit of it. That was all. Not that the other one isn't creative at all, but I just thought it was a really interesting thing, and we've seen a bit of both, everything from that tonight, and neither one is right or wrong, to be honest. I'm sure hopefully John agrees with me on that. I just think sometimes it's an interesting thing that we just go, actually that was more difficult to take, therefore it's the better shot.
If I'm absolutely honest, if I had to choose between them, I'd put that one on the wall.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I guess I always try to look at images from that perspective. In other words, it's like what's the one that holds my attention for the most amount of time? And for me, of the two, whilst I could see exactly what you said, exactly what I thought you'd say from the technical point of view, the other one, I don't know. Everyone may have a different opinion on that, but I just think it's an interesting kind of way of looking at it.
I think when we respond to kind of a technical challenge, that means a lot to us as photographers when we pulled something off that was quite difficult to achieve.
Mary, I've not done it yet.
But often the one that sits best with the viewer. I think that was thing mentioned last week, and Ansel Adams' old saying that there are two people in a photograph. One's the photographer, the other one is the viewer. And often the viewer's going to always win. So your memories of how you took it and what it meant at the time will often be overshadowed by how people respond to it, and that can sometimes be the difference.
Absolutely understood. Yeah.
Okay. Right, Mary, you can look again. So this is your final. This is your final. This is your final spider warning now for the next shot. Now, I think some of you have seen this because I've used this possibly on an article somewhere in PhotoBuzz, and it kind of was. I kind of just threw it in at the last moment. So this is one of mine, and we were, we've seen some terrific focus stack shots and bits and pieces. This isn't focus stack, as you can tell. This is an f5.6 shot. It's my favorite macro shot that I've taken. Mary, really, you don't want to look, trust me. And it was, I just kind of want to, sometimes, I think we can, particularly because with macro, we have that really limited depth of field, even at f8, f11, as I say, this is 5.6, we can actually forget that lack of depth of field can be the thing that really makes the shot. And the reason that I like this, I think this is Sally, again, I'm going to call on the insect piece. I think this is a funnel or false funnel. It's a British spider, and they go in little webs and tunnels.
I think I only know this because in the house we've now moved to, I keep finding these in the garden. I think they are a false widow spider.
Maybe. I vaguely remember looking up at the time, and I'm sure they were called funnel, but anyway.
So many. There's a very good book, on the subject that the RSPB is selling at the moment.
Oh, well, there you go. You have to send me the link. Fair enough, but they're quite fascinating, and it was the fact that what I wanted to go for, I didn't want to go for a record shot of this particular spider, whatever. I just wanted the hint of mystery and the depth, falling out of focus behind, and the funnel, the little tunnel that it makes, and the web stuff going around it. That's what I was trying to create with it, rather than going for a stacked image or a f16 image where I'd bring a lot more into focus. I just wanted it to be like that, and I've got a whole bunch of these shots. This is probably my favorite because some of them don't work because of that lack of depth of field. I've just got the angle slightly wrong, it's moved slightly, whatever else. But this one, with the way the legs worked and the front legs, they're falling out of focus, and it just kind of fell together. So I thought we'd just end with that because we've just seen such a lot of really interesting shots. So everybody, kind of give yourselves a little round of applause for all your great images there, I think.
Well done, everybody. Some great shots.
Well done. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Okay, look, we are at quarter.
We're late
past.
again.
We're late. We're always going to be late. That's just how it goes, isn't it? Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. It was really nice to get you all saying a few things about it as well, which was excellent. And I'm sorry we're picky, Pauline, but you know, we can't help it. That's just how we are, and we will always be like that. As I said, just a last reminder, no Zoom next week, but we'll try and do one the week after. But we will see you on the lounge, I've no doubt, those of you that frequent the lounge. If not, we will see some of you on the Photoshop courses, and as I say, over the next couple of weeks. And those who haven't done it, haven't signed up, but still want to, let us know. Because if we get enough people, a nucleus of people, then we'll run another one. But just let us know. We can't really do it for 1 or 2, but we could do it maybe for 5 or 6, probably. We could make it work there. Thank you very much, and we'll see you
Thanks,
later
everyone.
on.
Nice
Thank
to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Imogen. Bye.
Bye.